Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice to see you all back. You might recall during Mr. Smith's case in chief, there was a few times we had to take a witness out of order. We're going to have to do that again this afternoon, okay? We try to stagger the witnesses as best we can. Sometimes there's a small window we can get them on and off. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take that witness up now, then we'll get back to the defendant. All right? Mr. Terry.
Yes, Your Honor. This time the defense would ask to call Parker Smith.
So would you come on up to the podium there, raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Come on up, have a seat, please, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name for the record?
It's Parker Smith. Last name's S-M-I-T-H.
Yours.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carey.
Thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Smith, do you know an individual by the name of Jonathan Hearn?
I do, sir.
How do you know him?
He's a good friend of mine.
How long have you guys been friends?
Since about 2008.
Now, I'm just going back a ways, but in August of 2014, specifically August 17th, 2014, were you and Jonathan going to go somewhere together?
That's correct, sir. We were going to go to a concert down at the Angel Stadium.
Was that with regard to the Harvest Christian Crusade?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during the time that you've known Jonathan, was he a fairly devout Christian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm assuming you are too, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you and Jonathan attend that revival?
No, sir.
Do you recall how that came about?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
We were going to go, and that afternoon, things were busy. I was busy, and I went ahead and told him I really wasn't interested in going, and I hadn't heard back from him after that. And by the time I did hear back, it was already too late to even leave to go to that event. I had been to the event the night before, didn't really want to go again.
Okay. Did Jonathan at any time indicate to you? Let me ask you this: when did you call him to ask him about if he still wanted to go?
You know the exact time I don't recall, but I would say it was late afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear back from him until later?
Till later, yeah.
Okay. And he indicated that he was not interested in going at that time?
He indicated that he had fallen asleep, didn't want to go either. So, yes, sir.
Did you know that Jonathan was involved in a relationship with Sabrina Limon?
Prior to the death of Robert Limon, no, sir.
Jonathan never once mentioned being involved with Sabrina?
Not romantically, sir.
After the death of Robert Limon, did you become aware that Jonathan was involved with Sabrina?
Involved, yes, but describe what kind of involvement.
Well, did you know that they were involved in a romantic affair of any type?
Not a romantic affair, no. Just that he was involved. That's now you're talking after the death of Mr. Limon.
Yes. Now, did you remember talking to the police at one point in time regarding the date of August 17th and what you and Jonathan were planning on doing that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you at that time express to the deputy you were interviewed by that Jonathan appeared to be over-infatuated with a married woman?
I did tell him that, sir.
Okay. And was that Sabrina Limon that you were talking about when you spoke to him about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you spoke to the police, do you remember approximately when that was?
It would have been the exact date. I don't know. I can tell you it was probably the day after that Jonathan Hearn was arrested.
So about November 19th of 2014?
Correct, sir.
Okay. So by then you were aware Jonathan was in some ways involved with Sabrina, you just didn't know the extent.
I didn't know the extent, correct, sir.
But you described it as being an over-infatuation.
Yes, that was the question that was asked to me, and that's what it was on my own speculation.
Okay.
So,
You weren't really aware of the extent of the relationship at all?
no, sir.
Jonathan, and you were close friends?
We were close friends, yes, sir.
And he never discussed being involved with Sabrina to you? Is that
He
right?
just described that he knew her, not to what extent. No.
All right, I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Smith,
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
When did you first hear about Sabrina from Jonathan? A time frame?
Probably around 2013.
Can you give an estimate if it was the beginning, the end?
Probably later probably later 2013. I would like to say.
October, November?
If my memory serves me right, later. I don't want to give you an exact date just because I don't know.
So, from the middle to the end of 2013.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Did you speak with him about Sabrina Limon at all at the beginning of 2014?
Yeah. I knew that he knew her. So he just what I heard from him about her.
Okay. How in depth were your conversations?
Not too in depth. It was mostly, hey, he told me that he knows the woman named Sabrina, where she worked, that she was a cool lady and all that kind of stuff. Not really in depth.
How frequently would you speak about her to Jonathan or with Jonathan?
Not very often. It wasn't a topic I liked to talk about. I knew she was married.
Moving towards the summer of 2014, were you having the same types of conversations with Jonathan Hearn, or had that?
The summer 2014, the conversations just weren't happening as much. It wasn't happening. It wasn't something I'd bring up. It was something if he brought it up, but it wasn't happening summer 2014.
Okay. So somewhere early 2014, Jonathan Hearn stopped speaking about Sabrina Limon to you.
Yeah, if he mentioned it, it was like in passing. He was like, "Oh, I saw her," whatever.
How frequently would you hang out with Jonathan Hearn in the beginning of 2014?
Beginning of 2014, probably once a week. About once a week, we'd see each other for maybe an hour or so.
Okay.
Go to dinner, lunch, that kind of thing.
How about after the death of Robert Limon, August 17, 2014? How often would you see Jonathan?
About the same frequency.
Do you recall what phone you used to call Jonathan? I mean, do you have multiple phones?
No, sir, just one phone, cell phone.
Okay. And what is the number to that phone?
760-983-8938.
And what phone did you call when you had this text message interchange with Mr. Hearn?
Just my cell phone.
Okay. Which phone did you use? I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right. Did you make the text message go to Jonathan's phone?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that the same number that he had for quite some time?
Yeah, he had the same cell phone for a long time.
Okay. Staying with August 17th, can you give a more accurate time frame for when you text message Jonathan?
Sure. Again, I'll try.
I understand.
Exactly. Okay, so it was a Sunday, August 17th. Probably around, if I could guess to say, probably somewhere around 4 o'clock, I texted him, somewhere in that area. Probably didn't hear back from him until 6. The event was at 7, and Anaheim was going to give some time to get down there.
So you heard from him at 6 p.m.?
That's approximate, yeah. Okay. I'm going off memory of where the sun was at, basically outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your estimate is that he responded about 2 hours after your text message?
Approximately 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3
hours, okay. Now you said you had been to the Harvest Crusade the night before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the Harvest Crusade?
It's an event that's held once a year. It's usually a weekend. It's a pastor named regularly. He's pretty prominent. He does a big event at the Angel Stadium. And it's a series of concerts and then a message after the concerts.
Okay. Now, had you gone in previous years with Mr. Hearn to this crusade? Or
No, sir. That was my first year.
Your Honor, if I could have a moment. Mr. Smith, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 19, which relates to Jonathan Hearn's cellular phone records. Start with, starting on the 17th, you said that your phone number was 760-983-8938?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at 1:02:46 seconds, there is an outgoing call to 760-998-7958. That's not you, correct?
No, sir.
All right. 1:03 to that same number, ending in 7958. That's not you, correct?
No, sir.
Moving on to 1:05. Ending in 7958. That's an outgoing text. Is that to you?
No, sir. I just have the one number.
At 6:27, incoming from 7958. Is that you?
No, sir.
6:30 at 998 or to 79. What ends in 7958? Is that you?
No, sir.
Same question for 6:31 at 7958. Is that from you?
No, sir.
7958 is line 104. That's not you, correct?
No, sir.
105, same
No, sir.
thing. 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111. I think you get where I'm going.
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. What's shown up on the screen all the way to line 120, there is no what ends in 8938, correct?
No, sir.
All right. I'm going to continue from line 120. That as well as an outgoing to the number ending in 7958. Not you. Line through 125, that's 7958. Same question, that's not you, correct?
No, sir.
The next number, 129, it's not you. There is another number, a 760-843-1799. Is that you?
No, sir.
All right, lines 129 to 133, ending in 7958.
No,
That is
sir.
not you, correct?
No, sir.
Moving down to line 135. Now we're at 1029. Call or an incoming text from 7958. Not you.
No, sir.
Lines all the way from 137 through 150 all go to 7958 or 129. So none of those are you, correct?
No, sir.
And that is at 5:04 p.m. Do you see your number anywhere?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Moving into the 7 o'clock hour, or 6:57. What is line 152? Ending in 7958. Is that your number?
No, sir.
All right, moving on to 7:50. Ending in 7958. Is that your number?
No, sir.
All right. Moving on, 154 through 160. All in 7958. Is that you?
No, sir.
Okay. We're at 8:37 now at the evening. The Harvest Crusade would have already started, correct?
Correct, sir.
We left off at 8:57. Moving on to 10:28. There is a 760-605-3617. Is that you?
No, sir.
There's 4 of those in a row, and none of those are you.
No, sir.
Moving on to 10:32 at night. Line 172, 7958. That's not you.
No, sir.
That's all the way down to 6:28:54 a.m. of the next morning.
No, sir.
None of those are you.
No, sir.
Okay. So we've gone through every call that Jonathan Hearn's phone received on August 17, 2014, and none of those up there are from your phone.
So one thing is I see that says SMS. Apple phones use iMessage. So if it was a text message from me to him, it would not have gone as an SMS text.
Okay.
Just to let you know.
All right. I'll show you now what has been it's still People's 19, and what I've done is I've filtered out for your number, 760-983-8938. That's you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there's a header right here that says SMS. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start with 180. This is June 4, 2014. That shows your number, 760-983-8938. What type of message is that?
It says SMS, sir.
Okay. So it shows that you sent a text message to Jonathan Hearn, and it shows your number.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's move down for another example to a multimedia message ending in 194. Also on June 4th. That's labeled as MMS. Do you know what that is?
Multimedia?
Okay. Again, June 4, 2014, 10:58. A message was sent, and it shows your phone number, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's move down to what is June 10th, 2014. There's a box 177. That is actually a voice call, and that shows I'll highlight it for you. That shows your number, 8938, incoming voice call to Jonathan Hearn's phone, correct?
Okay. Correct.
So all of that I've just shown to you are text messages, multimedia message, and voice messages, and your phone number showed up within the records.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's move down to the time frame when this happened. Start with August 12th, 2014. It shows that you called Jonathan Hearn at 9:37, correct?
If it says I did, then you know.
Okay. The next contact is August 20th, 2014. Again, a voice call. Do you recall that?
If it says it's on there, it's a voice call. Then I
And
did.
that is your phone, correct?
8938.
Okay. Do you see any entries between August 12th, 2014 and August 20th, 2014?
No, sir, I don't.
None whatsoever.
No, sir.
All right. Nothing further.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Smith, the Harvest Christian Crusade was in Anaheim during the time frame of August 16th through 17th of 2014.
That's correct.
And you went on the crusade on the
The Saturday night.
Saturday night, and then you and Jonathan were supposed to go Sunday.
Correct.
But you both ended up, and you discussed with Jonathan, from your recollection, not
From-
going that day?
From my recollection, yeah, I sent him a message. I have nothing to gain from lying to you guys. I don't know why it's not up there, but yeah.
I'm not doubting you. Now, with regards to Jonathan, I think you also described to the police at the time you spoke to them that Jonathan was a bit of a ladies' man. Is
That's
that right?
correct. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
He just ladies liked him. He just was a very likable guy,
Kind of a player, so to speak?
so to speak. Yes, sir.
Very charming
Yes, sir.
type of guy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you actually know any of the other women he was involved with?
Not personally, no. Just heard names, that kind of thing. I would see him talk to girls, flirt with girls, that kind of thing.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Eric Smith.
Thank you. I'll call you Parker. How's that?
That's okay. Yes, sir.
Parker, when you talked to law enforcement, your best friend had just been arrested for murder.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's when that interview took place.
Mhm.
Nothing further.
Mr. Terry.
No further questions.
You just sit down. Mr. Parker Smith, thank you. Sloan, you want to come on back up, please? All right, Ms. Lamone's back on the stand, subject to direct by Mr. Terry. You remind me to tell under oath now. Proceed, Mr. Terry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Limon, I want to kind of go back. We talked a little bit about the event at Beef O'Grady's. Did you had a number of your friends and family with you on that evening?
Yes.
Do you recall who all went with you or was at the event with you?
Yes.
And who were they?
My nephews, Jacob and Joshua, my nephew's wife Jordan, Jason and Kelly, Nikki and Ed, Nancy and Dax, Robert and I. And those were my people.
And when you arrived, you saw Jonathan there,
Yeah,
and he was with some other people. Did you know the people Jonathan was with?
no.
When you were leaving that night, did anything occur as you guys were leaving? Let me ask you, who was in your vehicle with you when you left Beef O'Brady?
Robert, Jason and Kelly, Nikki and Ed, Nancy and Dax, my nephew Joshy, I think.
You guys in a van?
Suburban.
Okay. Did anything occur as you were leaving the Beef O'Brady's?
We'd had a lot to drink, so.
What happened?
Flashing and misbehaving.
Was it you or was it somebody else in your party?
It was Kelly.
Did she do that when she had a little bit too much to drink?
Yes.
Now, before we broke, I think we were talking about the Gmail accounts that Jonathan set up for you and he. Were they just one account for you and one account for him, or was it just one account and you both would put emails on the same account, if you recall?
I can't remember exactly how that worked. It may have been either way. I'm not sure.
Do you remember what you guys were emailing each other about?
The same kind of things that we would text each other about,
Give me an example.
the lovey, mushy kind of things.
So,
Or just be in touch with each other, or just, it was a line of communication.
at any time when you were communicating on these Gmail messages between you and Jonathan, did you and he ever have communications about him poisoning Robert?
Absolutely not. No.
Did you know anything about Jonathan researching things about arsenic poison?
No.
Did you know that he was planning on trying to put arsenic poison in anything for your husband?
No.
Did he ever, in March, April, May, June, July, into August of 2014, did he ever provide you with any vanilla wafer banana pudding to give to Robert?
No.
Did you know he was researching anything about how long it would take to obtain the proceeds from a life insurance policy?
No.
Did you know that he researched as to settlement with BNSF Railroad?
No. Had no idea.
Now, in 2014, you sent Jonathan the Valentine's card. You remember seeing that?
Yes.
And you talked about having a future with him. What did you mean by that?
Today, I don't know what I meant by that, but then I was just caught up in and dreaming with him, I guess, in a fantasy state of mind, I guess.
Now, did he ever talk to you about this house he was going to build?
Yes.
And do you remember when he first talked about that?
No. Probably not that long into our relationship. I'm sure he had filled me in on his, he'd always had these big plans, you know, always.
Did he ever take you out to a piece of property that he owned and show it to you?
There were two different occasions. There was one occasion where he just said he had to go drive by one of his properties to go see. It had rained, and he wanted to see how the dirt or the mud slid on this piece of property that he had. Drainage, yeah,
Okay.
I guess. And then there was another occasion where I had an appointment out in that area, and he had picked me up, and that's where we had gone, just one of our, you know, times together, but it wasn't anything besides, that's just a place where we had gone one other time.
Now, in March of 2014, did Robert come across the Gmail communications between you and Jonathan?
In March. He had come across them. I can't remember exactly when that was, but he had come across them. Yes.
And okay, sorry, go ahead. He discovered that you and Jonathan were commuting by email?
Yes.
Okay. And was it after Robert had found out about the emails between you and Jonathan, or found them, that Jonathan then supplied you with a quote-unquote burner phone?
Yes.
And did he attempt to give you more than one phone during that time frame?
Yes.
How did he go about doing that?
There was a time where I didn't even know that he was in my area, where in Silver Lakes, and he'd said that he had been out there and that he'd placed a phone in a whatever it is. I don't know if it's, what are those things in the ground where like you can lift up it was on our property.
Water meter box?
Probably something like that.
Or water main box?
He had said he brought me a phone and then he'd put it in there.
And did you go out and find the phone?
Yes.
Did the phone work that he left in the water?
You know, I didn't remember it not working, but I do recall there being some kind of service issues.
Did he ultimately give you the one that you told the police to locate where to locate your residence the day you were arrested in 2014?
Yes.
Why did he give you this burner phone?
Objection, speculation.
Well, was it after Robert found the Gmail?
Yes.
Was it so that you guys could still continue to communicate with each other without Robert knowing?
Yes.
And again, once Robert found the Gmails, did he tell you to stop seeing Jonathan?
Yes.
Did you?
Not for long. I did, but not for long.
Again, why go back to seeing this man when you know your husband doesn't want you to?
I don't know.
There had to be something that had you
There was
keep
something.
going back to Jonathan time after your husband told you not to, Sabrina. Why? Was there something that he provided you with that you felt you weren't getting from your husband? What's the reason?
Well, looking back today, that there was obviously a void, I guess, for me. And at this time, Jonathan had definitely played into bringing this whole new light of, I'm going to say, guilt into my mind and into my heart, kind of how things were going for me on the party end of my life. And he would pray with me and be very just caring and spiritually focused. And I
Well, during the course of your relationship with him and with regards to your relationship, and let's be honest, by 2014, he obviously knew about the lifestyle you and your husband were leading, right?
yes,
Okay.
to an extent.
Okay. Did he create a sense of guilt in the way that you and your husband were living?
Absolutely, he did.
How?
There were, gosh, there were lots of different things that he would do. He just made me feel bad all the way around. And when I would back off or, think, I don't need that, he would come in a whole different way, in a loving way that he just made me feel like I needed this prayer, I needed this this love, and
Kind of hooks you back in?
absolutely.
Now, there was a lot of talk about, testimony by Jonathan about God's purpose, living for God's purpose. What did that mean to you?
That went on for a long time. God's purpose. That's where he started with me. Really, was God's purpose for me. That turned into, just a lot of scripture, a lot of biblically based. He would kind of angle it to work out for his benefit. Looking back. He would bring in God's purpose in lots of different ways and then apply it to my life, his life, us meeting, knowing one another, coming together, God's purpose was always a big topic, a big how we spoke a lot.
Well, what did that mean to you? What did that mean to you? Or was this part of his way of talking to you? Because I've heard that term before, living for God's purpose. To you, what did that mean?
I was so mixed up at that time, obviously. At that time, what did God's purpose mean?
Yes.
Yes, I was. What did God's purpose mean? I guess I wanted to find God more than I had been.
Did you feel at that time somewhat, how do I put it, somewhat spiritually adrift?
Absolutely.
And you think that Jonathan was trying to guide you with regards to your view and your spirituality and your view of your life?
Objection leading.
Assistant.
Do you feel in some ways that your discussions with Jonathan affected your view with regards to your purpose, your spiritual purpose?
Objection leading.
Assistant.
Do you feel that your discussions with Jonathan in any way affected your views?
Yes.
How so?
Really, he changed a lot of my views, just kind of placing them more into his kind of views, and it just felt, I don't know, they were enlightening, and they made sense to me at the time.
Did you feel at that time that you needed to have more, to be more spiritually centered?
Absolutely. I was searching for something, obviously, but and that's how I felt at the time, yes.
Now, did you have discussions with Rob about some of these feelings that you were having after this involvement with Jonathan?
Yes, I did.
And was Rob interested in pursuing this path with you?
No, Rob was very busy with work, and he was happy with how we were living, and it didn't tie into church or anything like that. So
It was more of a need that you had?
it was, and at one time Robert and I definitely walked in hand in hand in faith and with our personal relationship with the Lord, Robert and I together. And we just...
Somewhere it went wrong?
We lost that way.
Now, turn your attention to May of 2014. Specifically May 23rd of 2014. There's been evidence presented during the course of this trial that you had two fairly lengthy conversations with Jonathan on that date. Okay? Do you remember those conversations?
Not at all.
Okay. And you heard the evidence with regards to one of the calls originating from the Mettler to Edison area. There was a testimony yesterday with regards to the cell phone expert. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was another call from Tehachapi, Rosamond area, a lengthy call between you and Jonathan on that date also?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay, and that was from the cell phone expert.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Do you remember where Jonathan had been that weekend? Or those days prior to that? Those calls?
I do remember him having a training that he went to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you recall what the subject matter of the conversations you had with him on the May 23rd, those two different conversations, what you guys were talking about?
No, I do remember him telling me about his training a little bit, and also where he had been, how pretty it was where he was, that it was close to the ocean, and him just telling me about his weekend or whatever date he went, his time.
Did he tell you where he was when you were talking to him?
No, not that I remember.
Okay. At some point, did you and he stop talking, or was there a breakup in the service, if you recall?
I have no idea.
Okay. Be safe to say you don't really remember what the contents of either conversation was?
No.
Were you telling him how to locate Robert's workplace on that day?
No.
Had you previously told him approximately where Rob's shop was in Tehachapi?
I had told him about Robert's work up in Tehachapi and his workplace up in Tehachapi. And I don't remember when I did that, or specifically why I had told him, if he had asked me, or how it went, but nothing that was out of our normal. I mean, I told him every detail of my life. I told him always what was going on, where Rob was, because those were times where we talked or saw one another. So he always knew, and he knew details of everything about me and my life, fortunately.
So you got to the point where you trusted him to disclose some of your deepest, darkest secrets, so to speak?
Yes.
And you told him about everything about your life and your life with Rob?
Yes and no. He was a pretty critical guy, so I did not tell him details of if, it was a wild weekend. We made it, I'm back, from whatever trip we went on or whatever we were doing, but I wouldn't go into detail of things that I knew he was going to criticize me or Robert, and then sometimes, but I mean, he did know many details of my life, most everything, but I would leave some things out.
And you talked about the kids on occasion?
Talked about the kids often, always.
Because they were first and foremost in your mind and life.
Absolutely.
Throughout the summer of 2014, were you and Jonathan still using the burner phone to speak with one another?
This summer of 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sure.
And did you talk to him and send him text messages on a daily basis?
Yes, I did.
What were you guys talking about all the time?
Oh gosh, we talk about anything and everything.
Everyday life?
Yes.
And was a lot of it, a lot of Jonathan's communications with you, either through text messages or during your phone conversations, were a lot of those also about getting right with God and talk and prayer?
Always.
Did Jonathan talk to you about any of his feelings about the affair that you and he were having? Did he ever express to you that he was feeling guilty or those types of things?
We had discussed that, yes.
Were you feeling guilty about your affair with Jonathan?
Yes, I would.
But you continued with it anyways?
Yes.
By 2014, obviously, were you in love with Jonathan Hearn?
Yes.
Did you still love your husband?
Yes, I did.
Were you wanting to give up your life with Rob to be with Jonathan?
No.
Why not?
I had the best of both worlds right there. I guess I didn't want to give up either one of them.
Now, morning of August 2017, the day Robert was killed. After Robert left, you called Jonathan.
After Robert left for work,
Yes.
that was a normal happenings.
And when you first called Jonathan, do you remember where he was at? First time you called him that morning?
I guess he was at work from what evidence shows, what he said. He was at work. Yeah, he was coming home from work, I guess.
Do you remember calling him a while later that morning?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall calling him around somewhere around about the early afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. And you talked to him for a number of minutes, is that right, in all those calls? Yeah?
Yes.
Do you remember what you were talking about?
It was all normal. Prayer. I remember praying with him before he went to sleep, before we hung up, and also later that same day, that same night, praying when we hung up.
Did you text him or call him after you found out about Rob having been killed?
After I found out about Robert, such a blur. It just, I know that I did text him and let him know what had happened. But through all these text messages that are recorded, that so many I don't remember that at the time, but obviously they happened, so I really don't remember. There was a lot going on, and it's like a whirlwind.
What did you do when you were told Robert had been killed?
What did I do?
Yes, ma'am.
I dropped to my knees and started crying.
Do you remember talking to Detective Meyer early morning hours of August 18th when he called you at home?
After I heard that, yes, I do. Yeah.
Prior to the BNSF employees showing up to your house, were you aware that Robert had been killed?
No.
Did you and Jonathan at all that day ever talk about him killing Robert?
No.
Were you aware at that time that Jonathan had killed Robert?
No.
After Robert had passed away, were you the one who began the process of having his life insurance taken care of?
Okay, I'm sorry, say that again?
Sure. Were you the one who contacted the life insurance company with regards to Robert's death?
No.
Did your sister take care of that for you?
Julie did, yes.
With regards to the BNSF, did you contact them regarding medical benefits for the kids?
They had contacted me, and there were a lot of people helping me, and letting me know, benefits that were available to the kids and I. All that came to me: people, paperwork, benefit packages. And my thing, we were cut off. Our insurance, our health insurance, was cut off. So that was my main concern, as far as any kind of thing with the railroad. That was my main concern, was the health insurance.
Now we've heard from Mr. Flatten with regards to this. Did you contact them about a settlement as a result of Robert being killed at work?
No, it was in regards to the health insurance. I'd let him know, I need to figure out, what to do as far as our benefits go for.
Did you talk to them about anyone about a settlement
Anyone?
from BNSF?
Everybody was, around. BNSF workers would say things to me, but I never, that wasn't a topic of any of my conversations ever brought up, or anything that I ever cared. It wasn't an issue, something that I brought up to anybody, no.
Now, with regards to the life insurance money that you did receive for as a result of Robert's death,
Yes.
what did you do with that money?
I put it in a. There's some that I put into a fund for savings for the kids, and each of the kids have an account. And we've gone through a lot. We've moved. I paid off anything that we had pending, and
Living expenses?
living expenses.
Now, you sold the house up in Silver Lakes at some point, is that right?
Yes.
When did you sell the house in Silver Lakes?
After all of this had come out and there was media exposure and changed our life forever, obviously. So I needed to relocate Robbie and Leanna.
At some point, had you taken them out of school and they were being homeschooled?
Yes.
Why'd you do that?
There was so much turmoil, harassment, and I just wanted to protect the kids. So.
Now, when you sold the house up in Silver Lakes, did you make any money off of it?
About $17,000 was the profit.
And what did you do with that money?
I paid off my car.
And the house, now did you purchase your residence in Camarillo?
No.
Are you renting that?
Yes.
Do you get some type of annuity funds or anything from the railroad for the kids?
Yes, we get railroad retirement until Robbie's 19, I believe.
And do you, the money that you get, is some of that going into the kids' savings, or are you using that to live on?
That's just to live on. It's just enough to live out there.
Pay the rent?
Yes.
Other necessities?
It is expensive where we moved to, yes.
Are the kids happy out there now?
Yes, they are.
Now, on the day that Robert was killed, in the afternoon, were you texting Jonathan or calling him and he wasn't responding?
On the 17th?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Was I texting him?
Or calling him?
Yes.
Were you and he going to try to get to see each other that day or not?
We had talked about it, but it wasn't going to work out. So he had said to make sure that I had called him to wake him up so I could talk to him again before Robert came home.
And was that later in the evening when you finally got through to him?
Yes.
Okay. Was that before you found out Robert had been killed?
Yes.
Now, you recall some of the things you were doing that day?
I was getting Robbie and Leanna ready for the first day of school and just kind of unwinding from the weekend and just getting things put together for the kids next day.
Did you go see your mom?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember texting Rob and telling him you were going to see your mom?
Yes.
Do you remember texting him later saying you were worried about him?
Yes.
And do you remember texting him later that Leanna wanted to say goodnight and to give you a call?
Yes.
Did you, in between, also try to contact Rob by calling him?
Yes.
You tried multiple times?
Yes.
Did he ever respond to you and talk to you?
I had spoken to him that day.
Had that been earlier, before when he was out on a call, or was that?
Yes.
But you called him a number of times when he hadn't gotten home. When
Yes.
you expected him home.
Yes.
aware of why Jonathan didn't call you back or text you during that afternoon and into the early evening of August 17th?
No, not until I spoke with him in the evening time.
Now, when Detective Meyer contacted you in the early morning hours on August 18th, approximately, it was about 1 or 2 in the morning, do you remember speaking with him?
Yes.
Okay, you remember hearing that conversation?
Yes.
And he asked you if you or Rob were involved in any extramarital affairs. Is that right?
Yes, he did.
And you told him no. Is that right?
Yes.
Why?
Because I was embarrassed. I didn't, that's something that Robert and I didn't want exposed anyways. And I just felt like that was a embarrassing, personal, private lifestyle that I didn't want known.
Well, were you trying to protect your husband's reputation somewhat?
Yes,
Why?
along with my own, because that's not how I wanted Rob to be known at all.
Was a part of the lifestyle that you guys were living with your group, was it part of it was you just didn't talk outside the group about your lifestyle?
Yes.
Now, Jonathan started coming over to your house fairly shortly after your husband had been killed, is that right?
Yes. He didn't really take no for an answer. There was in the beginning, I remember letting him know that I don't know, what was going to happen, that I needed to get myself together, and I hadn't even processed what was going on at all.
But he came over, you were talking to him on the phone. The burner phone still, right?
Yes.
One that he gave you.
Yes. Yes.
You were continuing to talk to him on that phone.
Yes.
Robert's no longer around. Why are you still talking to him on that phone?
That was the phone that we had used. I know that I had talked to him as well on my landline, and when he started coming around, he started letting me know his takes on his, feelings on all of this, that I should definitely keep our relationship hidden.
Why?
Because he had told me that just the dangers of what could happen when an affair is exposed, how the police think and how they work, and I remember him letting me know that he had spoken with someone in regards to what happened with Rob, and they had
Objection here.
said something.
Sorry.
Hearsay.
I'm being offered for the truth of the matter, sir, Your Honor, being offered to show her state of mind.
I give you a little leeway there. Go ahead and
Go ahead, Ms. Limon.
Referring to the wife having something to do with when the husband's gone. He had said he'd heard rumors about that. I don't know. There was some railroader that that was a neighbor, I believe, of Parker's or somebody that he was speaking to, and that and I said, why would they say that about me? So he just started scaring me, I guess, with how it could be portrayed, and
Lead back to him, you.
yes, him and I, and he'd also mentioned that Parker had acted funny to him.
Objection. Hearsay.
Sustained. Next question, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We've heard a lot of these conversations. There are a number of times where you were talking to Jonathan about information you were getting from Detective Meyer. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Those times where you were talking to him about the DNA and the photographs and the motorcycle information and the video from the pilot gas station.
Yes.
Every time you brought up some of these things, and I think it was Detective Rutledge mentioned it during one of your interviews, that it sounded like Jonathan was sounding a little panicked. Do you remember that those questions from Detective Rutledge when you were interviewed that third time?
Yes.
On the 20th of November?
Yes.
Did you well, let me ask this. Why were you talking to Jonathan about the investigation?
He, in the very beginning, I mean, he wanted to know everything. He wanted to know everything that was going on, and I told him. I trusted him. I felt at the time like, in a way, that he was protecting us, protecting me. I believed him.
You believed in him, or did you believe him?
I believed in him, and I did believe him because I didn't want to believe that Jonathan had anything to do with Robert's murder.
Was that because you loved him?
Yes.
Do you think that you ignored what could have been possible warning signals in some of those conversations that Jonathan might be involved?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Well, did you, based on those conversations, ever begin to have some doubts about whether or not Jonathan was involved in Robert's death?
There were times where it felt weird, things he was saying or acting, but I didn't want to believe that could be possible.
Is it a situation where you do this thing where if something frightens you or you don't feel comfortable with, you just shut yourself off?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Well, what do you do when it's something that you don't feel comfortable with or something that frightens you? What's your typical response?
I block it out. I had a lot of responses how I dealt with things back then. I would just not really deal with it.
Kind of did that also with your relationship with Robert in some ways too,
Yes,
and the way you were living with the way the two of you were living.
I drink a lot.
Sort of anesthetize yourself.
Yes.
Did Jonathan encourage you to talk to him whenever you got information from Detective Meyer or some of the other officers involved in this case?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Did Jonathan ever ask you to talk to him about the case?
Objection leading.
Talk to who?
To
I'm sorry.
him. Did
Ask
Jonathan
the
ever
question
ask you?
again, Mr. Terry, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did Jonathan ever ask you to talk to him about the case and keep him advised?
Objection leading.
Well, as to the last part, keep him advised, sustained.
Did Jonathan ever ask you to talk to him about the case?
Yes.
And were there times where he would be talking to you on the phone and say that he wanted to talk to you in person?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
And when he came to talk to you in person, what did you talk about?
When we would meet in person, it was more of just like he was there and he just made me feel better. And we would talk about the police and how they work, and he filled my mind with lots of fear and lots of doubt of, at the time, what was obviously wrong. I wish that I would have been honest about how we were living and what was really going on, but I was convinced that that was not the thing to do.
Did he... Well, let's take a break if you want. I can ask one more question.
However you want to play it.
One more question.
You bet.
Did he make you feel like you shouldn't trust Detective Meyer and the work he was doing?
Yes, he did.
Take a break now.
See you back at 3:15. Remember not to form or express any opinion or discuss the case. See you back at 3:15. We have law club plus 4.
Good
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you back. Mr. Terry, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Limon.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Limon, there was testimony from Jonathan Hearn that you and he had conversations that were somewhat dark when you were discussing Robert. Remember that testimony?
Yes, I do.
Did you ever say or have any comments about Robert that were dark or negative in the conversation with Jonathan? Did you ever have any conversations of that nature with Jonathan Hearn?
I could never paint Robert to be dark. Ever. Even if I tried to, I couldn't. Robert was not a dark kind of man. What I did share with Jonathan was my life, and he definitely took his time, I would say, to pick it apart, and I guess paint his own dark picture. I can't say that our priorities were right, so I know there were things that I had mentioned to Jonathan about Robert in regards to him being preoccupied, him, I guess his priorities, but my priorities played the same role as Robert's. It's not like his were so much off and mine weren't. So that dark picture that he said that I painted of my husband, no way did I paint a dark picture of Rob, ever.
Even though he was wanting to remain involved in your open marriage and your escapades with your other friends.
Yes.
Even though
But-
he was, according to you, your husband was spending a lot of time on the computer, going over porn, that isn't, you didn't feel that made you feel like Robert was in some ways a dark or made you have ill feelings towards Robert?
Not dark. Robert wasn't dark.
What do you mean when you say Robert wasn't dark? What was Robert like?
Robert was Robert was happy. Robert was energetic. Robert was hardworking. Robert was fun. Robert was not dark. Those are not dark. Robert, I couldn't paint Robert to be dark, even with our definite character defects.
And how would you describe yourself and your personality?
Robert and I were we got along so well because we were very much alike. We were very compatible. We both were energetic. We both loved life and people, and just were a lot alike. We really were.
Now, after Robert was killed, you spent a lot of time talking to Jonathan Hearn and texting him, and you spent actual time talking to him in person. Why, after the short period of time after your husband's death, why did you immediately turn to Jonathan? Or did you?
Well, I wasn't really given break, an opportunity. I don't know how to describe that time in my life, because it was such a surreal time for me. And Jonathan ended up feeling to me to, he felt like he was going to care for me, and that he was like he felt like my rock at that moment in time. For whatever reasons, I just felt he is what I held on to, I guess.
During this time, from the time you've known, in fact, you've known Jonathan all that time, did you believe that Jonathan was capable of killing Robert?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I guess a lot of reasons, but I just felt like he was a good man. I felt like he was a good guy, and that there was just no way that his character fit someone that could do a violent act like murder, like killing someone. I just didn't think he could.
Did you believe he was a godly man?
I did, very much so.
Did that affect your ability to believe that he was capable of having committed this crime?
Absolutely, it did.
The notes that the police found when they searched Jonathan's house, and specifically the ones that were they found in the tan shorts in the laundry basket. Had you ever seen those notes before?
I never seen any of those notes that were placed into evidence. Most of not.
At least as far as the ones that were at his home?
Yes, the ones in his home or in the pocket. I never seen those before.
And the snow globe that Mr. Smith put into evidence at the end of the day yesterday, was that something that you'd given to Jonathan?
Yes.
Do you remember when you gave it to him?
I had given it to him as a Christmas gift.
Was that Christmas of 2013?
Yes. I believe so.
Okay. There's an inscription on it, and it says, "Love, Sabrina." Is that something that you had done and gave to him?
Yes.
Did he ever give you any gifts?
He gave me lots of gifts.
Was that during the entire course of your relationship with him?
Yes.
What types of gifts had Jonathan given you?
Oh, he would give me gifts that were so thought out and thoughtful, and very detailed. Lots of writing, just very deep, thoughtful gifts. From like my favorite flower seed to plant in a gift basket with watering can, like just very thought out, deep gifts. He gave me jewelry. Wrote lots, left things on my car. He did a lot of things.
charming and
Very charming.
individual?
Yes, very charming.
Was that part of the attraction, that kind of attention to you that caused you to become enamored with it?
That was the attraction.
That last call that from November 18th that Mr. Smith played, you remember that one where you were talking about looking at the video?
Yes.
Okay. And there was a point where you're talking to Jonathan, and he was saying to you, well, they could have taken that video of me anywhere. Do you remember him riding my motorcycle, or do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember asking him why would Detective Meyer do that?
I had asked him that more than once. I had asked him that. He said that it's part of how cops do things. It's part of what they could do. He just filled my mind with all these things that how investigation works, and I did think it was weird that he had said that it could be him in the video. And I said, well, it's not you, the video, but
Well, did you convince yourself
yes, I did.
in looking at that video that it wasn't him?
Now, looking back, yes, I did. And in that moment, yes, I did. I wouldn't allow that in fully. Like, I hadn't even really processed what had happened to Robert.
If you knew that Jonathan killed your husband, would you have been involved in a relationship with him after your husband was killed?
No.
Would you have allowed a man like that, if you knew that he killed your husband, to be around your children?
No.
Objection leading to strike.
Would you allow someone who had killed your husband around your children?
No. Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I wouldn't allow that. That's horrible. That's dangerous. That would be putting Robbie and Leanna in danger.
Would you ever intentionally put your children in danger?
No. I would not.
What do your children mean to you?
They mean the world to me.
When you first spoke with Detective Rutledge and Trevino in Boron, throughout the interrogation, you kept saying, "There's no way, I can't believe it." Were you still in denial as to the possibility that Jonathan would have killed Rob?
Yes.
When you were transported from Boron to Bakersfield, were there discussions between you and the officer who was transporting you about the need to talk to Detective Meyer?
The whole entire way he talked to me and told me that I need to talk to Detective Meyer, and that was my only way.
During the course of the interrogations, well, especially on the first one, Detective either Trevino or Rutledge told you it was a death penalty case. Is that right? You remember that?
They told me so many things. Yes, it was a very serious case, obviously.
When you were talking to Detective Meyer, you still, throughout that interrogation, continued to deny to believe or not believe that Jonathan was the one who killed Robert. Why were you still denying that Jonathan could have done it?
I guess my guilt of being in a relationship with him. I didn't want it to be him at all. I don't know.
Did you begin to believe it could have been him?
There were multiple things that were that I would think that made me think that were weird, of course, but I just, when I would see him or talk to him, he just made me feel better, and I didn't believe it.
You continued to believe that Jonathan wasn't capable of doing that?
I did not believe he was capable of doing that.
Then when you talked to Detective Rutledge and Trevino again on November 20th, at that point you told them that you believed that Jonathan had killed Rob. Is that right?
The last interview after I'd been in jail? Yes.
Why did you tell them that you now knew that Jonathan had killed Rob?
Through the investigation, or through the, interrogation, I was they got mad at me for not saying what they wanted me to say, and that was that I knew that Jonathan Hearn killed my husband, and certain things that they had told me that that's what they were looking for, and that it was the only way that I was ever going to see my children again. And so they did like the good cop, bad cop thing to me, and I was scared. And after not talking to Jonathan for a couple days and all the information that they had given to me, I told them what they wanted to hear, and that's one of my problems. That's one of my defects, is that I say things to make people. I say things that people want to hear. So that was what I did, because I thought that was what I was supposed to do at this point. They had told me that I was in their world now, and that they were the way to go. So
were all the comments that the officers made to you on those recordings?
No.
Did you, in looking back at it, did you feel in some ways that Jonathan was trying to control you?
Jonathan was very controlling, yes.
How so?
Jonathan knew how to play. He knew how to play his cards right. He knew how to. Looking back through all this, he knows what he's doing, in everything that he does. He has an approach to get kind of what he wants. So. Jonathan controlled me through carrying his Bible with him everywhere that he went, and using that to guilt me, but also make me feel safe and secure and like I was doing right, I guess. Even though I knew there were definitely things I was doing wrong in my life, it was just a whole mix of ways that he went about controlling me. And
well, let's talk about feeling safe. During your course of your marriage with Rob, did Rob make you feel safe?
yes, he did.
Did Rob take care of you?
Yes, he did.
And he was a good provider and a good husband,
The best.
and he was a good father.
Yes, he was.
Would you ever say anything negative about Rob with regards to how he interacted with the kids?
No. Rob even said it today when he wanted to help his dad. I probably would have made comments to Rob many times, like, "Come on, get this kid going," kind of thing. I know I'd talk about that for sure. But being a bad dad, never, ever.
Sabrina, up until the time you were arrested this year, and you found out that Jonathan accused you of planning with him to kill Robert, had you ever discussed any time from the time you began being involved with Jonathan until the day Robert was killed and after Robert was killed, discussed with him killing your husband?
No, I did not.
At no time, let me ask you this, at any time did you discuss about wanting Robert to be gone or dead?
No, I never said dead or gone. No, I did not want Robert gone.
Now, Jonathan's also talked about your attitudes towards divorce and how you didn't want to have to deal with all the headaches of if you and Robert were to get a divorce, with dealing with child custody and all that. Did that ever even enter into your mind as being an issue if you decided to leave Robert?
What, child custody?
Well, having to deal with the problems involved with a divorce.
I never thought divorce through. I am definitely guilty of entertaining hopes and dreams with Jonathan. And we had talked about divorce, but that's never anything that I acted on or was ready to act on with Robert.
How about being concerned about how your friends would side with Rob over you if you two had split up?
No, we never spoke of that.
Did that even ever enter into your mind?
No.
How about if the issues with regards to even your parents, if you and Rob were to split up, taking Rob's side over you, did that ever even enter your mind?
No.
Did you ever discuss that with John?
No.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Mr. Smith.
We can get some exhibits shown.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Ms. Limon.
Good afternoon.
Just wanted to start at the time frame of when you began to work at Costco. So that's kind of when this started, okay?
Okay.
What year did you begin to work at Costco?
Um, 2012.
Why did you begin to work at Costco? What was the reason?
The kids were both in school. I stayed home with the kids until they were both in school.
How often would you work?
I worked part-time.
So about how many hours a week would you work?
It did vary. It wasn't a whole workload at all. It's just part-time work.
20 hours a week, 10 hours a week?
20 plus, probably.
How long after you started working at Costco did you meet Jonathan?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay, if you could just give an estimate.
Gosh. I'm going to say maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months. I'm not sure.
Okay. So not long after you started working at Costco?
I guess not.
You said when you met Jonathan at Costco, you were not attracted to him initially.
No.
Now, when you say not attracted, is that a physical statement or is that an emotional statement?
Physical and emotional.
You also said that you did not know his age.
No, I did not.
Okay. How long did it last that you did not know his age?
It lasted a while. I was already carrying on conversations with him and getting to know him, and he had had me look at his website for that book that he was writing, and I do remember it said that he had been with the department for like 8 years or something like that. So I was thinking, okay, well, he has to be at least in his late 20s. I was assuming he was older than my nephews.
When did you learn how old he was?
I can't remember when, but like I said, I'd already started forming a relationship with him. I was speaking to him often, and he had sent me this very long explanation of his views on age, and this whole long story, and then let me know that he was 22, and I was 32 at the time, and I was shocked that he was that young, much younger than my own nephews, and but at that point, it really didn't matter to me.
So you are 10 years older than Mr. Hearn.
Yes.
When you found out his age, how did that affect you?
I was shocked that he was that young, but it really didn't matter to me at that point.
Why did it not matter? I mean, 22 is a little bit young.
He was very smart. He was he was just a very educated guy. He was well above any 22-year-old, any 32-year-old, any 42-year-old that I had ever known. So it really didn't matter to me because of his, I guess his way about him. He didn't act like a 22-year-old.
Now, in that time frame when the relationship initially began, it started as an emotional relationship?
Yes. I guess it started just as a friendship.
What pushed it forward? What propelled it forward from a friendship?
I guess just getting to know one another.
What propelled it into a sexual relationship?
Before there would just be, we would just get together and that's, it ended up happening.
And in this time frame, would you send him pictures?
Yes.
Send him pictures of you. We've seen some clothed. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. And some where you were not clothed.
Yes.
So in this time frame, December into 2013, you are sending a 22-year-old naked photographs of yourself.
Yes.
So these photographs, you take them of yourself and you send it to him.
Oh, I had plenty of explicit photographs of myself.
Okay. But these are actions taken by you and
Yes.
provided to Mr. Hearn.
Yes.
Okay. I've heard a lot of testimony from you about how you were controlled by Jonathan Hearn, but you were sending him explicit photographs of yourself on a regular basis. Is that fair?
A regular basis. I don't remember that, but yes, that is fair.
Okay. So why were you sending him these photos?
Well, he'd asked me for those photos.
Okay. So every time you sent an explicit photo, Jonathan Hearn has said to you, "Hey, Sabrina, send me something with you naked."
I don't remember that, no.
So when you sent some of these photos, you sent it on your own volition, on your own.
I'm sure I did, yes.
How regular did this sexual affair occur?
You know, it just varied.
Okay. Where did it take place at?
There were different places.
Describe some of them.
My home. Different places we would meet. His home.
Just speaking to that mic a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry.
Did you invite him to your home for this sexual affair?
Yes, I would invite him to my home.
Okay. So again, this is something that you are doing, directing towards Jonathan Hearn in your relationship to bring him to you.
Yes, I allowed him in to my life.
These different places that you would meet, where is this at?
There were different places that we would meet where we'd go hike, more secluded places he knew.
And how did these meetings occur? How were they set up?
We would talk a lot whenever there was an opportunity of us being able to see one another. We saw one another.
Okay. So you would speak with Jonathan, you would set up a meeting, and then you would go to that meeting.
Yes.
Did he force you to go?
No.
So you went on your own to where Jonathan Hearn was.
Yes.
You said you also went to his home as well, and staying with 2013.
Okay.
Do you recall going to his home in 2013?
Yes.
Now, when you were going to his home in 2013, where were your kids?
They would be in school.
So how would it work out? Jonathan was home, kids are in school, he gives you a call, and off you go to his residence in Hesperia.
Yes, we'd make plans to get together.
Now, when you were leaving Hellendale to go to Hesperia to meet Jonathan, you did this on your own.
Yes.
Did he force you to go?
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you some photographs. It's been marked as people 57.
Yes.
Did you send this photograph?
Yes.
What are you doing in the picture?
I'm puckering my lips up.
Okay. And the reason for that?
I don't know.
We talked a lot about being controlled. Are you being controlled here in this photograph by Mr. Hearn?
No.
Okay. You did this on your own.
Yes.
You're puckering your lips and you're sending that photo to Jonathan Hearn.
Yes.
The photograph is sideways, but January 7, 2013. You recognize a location in that photograph, and this is page 4.
Yes, that was at Jonathan's house.
Okay.
I've never seen that picture before.
Okay. But it is a photograph of you at Jonathan's house.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Where are the kids?
They were in school. I'm sure.
Showing you page 5. Do you recognize this photograph already been testified to from January 8th, 2013?
Yes.
And that's a photograph of you at Costco.
Yes.
Next page, page 6. I'm presuming from the same stand, since in the other one you have Lysol as well. But there is a napkin that says, "I love you more, Jonathan," with some hearts on it. Did he write that?
No, it looks like,
I can bring it up to you if you'd like.
no, I can see it. I'm sure that looks like my writing.
Did he force you to write that?
No,
Okay. Was he controlling you at that moment?
no.
You are 10 years older than Jonathan Hearn.
Yes.
You are, in your own words, energetic, outgoing, people person. Is that correct?
Yes.
We've seen photographs that you sent to Jonathan Hearn,
Yes.
notes that you've written to Jonathan Hearn.
Yes.
You went to his house on your own.
Yes, I did.
You allowed him to come to your house for sex.
Yes, I did.
And you want to testify now that he controlled you.
He did not physically control me. It became, I guess, mentally, he ended up having control. He liked control. He liked to be in control. And I allowed him to do that.
Where in any of the photos that we have, is there any element showing control of by Jonathan Hearn?
You won't see that in photo.
About the snow globe, did he force you to give you a snow globe or a snow globe to him?
Absolutely not.
What about that Valentine's Day letter?
No.
Did he force you to write it?
No.
So again, in everything that's been submitted into evidence, where is there anything whatsoever that shows any element of control by Jonathan Hearn?
I guess I have no evidence that any physical evidence.
Now, Beef O'Brady's, you invited him to go to that bar.
Yes, he had.
Sorry, I keep calling it a bar. I think it's just a restaurant that has a bar.
Yes.
Okay. What led up to that?
He had been in Costco prior, and it was the talk of one of my coworkers that was going to be playing in the band. So I was telling everybody to go and check him out. And I had told Jonathan too.
What was your thought process at that time? You're having sex with this man. Your husband's going to go. What are you thinking?
I wasn't thinking.
If I just have a moment, I'm looking for one particular photo.
Sure. Do you know which one it is, Mr. Smith?
It is the photo packet from Beef O'Brady's.
Pass it out and click. Let's see. We're almost to 100 exhibits, Mr. Smith, and we almost got to Z Zulu one alphabet. I don't know where it is. Mr. Smith found it.
This is the one I'm going to show you, page 1 of People's 10. Recognize this photo?
Yes, I do.
That's you giving a bear hug to Jonathan Hearn at Beef O'Brady's in March of 2013.
Yes, it is.
You're going to hear this question a lot. Did he force you to give him that hug?
No, he did not.
You did that on your own.
I sure did.
Okay, where was your husband at this time?
He was there.
Were you concerned at all that your husband would see you hugging the man that you were having an affair with?
No,
Why not?
because we were very social. We hugged a lot of people. We talked to a lot of people. That wouldn't be anything was really out of my character that I would do.
Okay. Showing you now People's 11. You recognize this photo?
Yes,
Your husband on the left, your lover on the right. Have you ever contemplated how entirely disrespectful it is to invite your lover to a restaurant where your husband's going to be?
yes,
Okay. And what, didn't care or what?
I wasn't thinking.
Well, you had to be thinking because you did something. What was your reasoning?
I guess that I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay. Would it be fair to say to do something like that, you don't have to care that much about that person's emotions or feelings if they were to find out?
I did care.
You cared so much you invited your lover to a night out with your husband.
I don't have an answer for that.
Let's try this. What in that evening, on the photos we've seen, shows that you care about your husband in these photos?
Well, there's nothing that shows in that photo. I'm not in that photo.
What about the other photograph, People's 10?
That shows that I care about Jonathan.
Now, sometime after this photograph, your husband did find out. You said that he broke your phone?
Yes,
Did you ever tell Jonathan that your husband had broke your phone?
yes.
When Robert broke your phone, what did you think?
He was not happy with me.
Well, after this happened with Robert, broke your phone, he wasn't happy with you, what did you tell Jonathan?
I told him I couldn't see him anymore.
How long did that last?
Not very long.
Okay. That recontact, did that occur when he came to Costco?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But yes, he would come back in and pursue, continue our relationship.
I hear the word pursue a lot. It denotes somebody going after somebody. Would it be fair to say your relationship with Jonathan Hearn was a two-way street?
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
So if he pursued you, you pursued him as well.
Yes.
Now, in the fall of 2013, how was your relationship with Jonathan?
The fall. I don't remember.
How was your relationship with your husband?
Robert and I always got along.
Well, staying with 2013, your husband's found out that you're having a sexual affair with a man 10 years you're younger. Would you characterize your marriage as a good marriage?
Our marriage had lost what we once shared that was sacred. Yes and no. It was complicated, I guess.
So at this point in your marriage, it was different than it had been.
Yes. It was different when things when we opened our marriage. It the dynamics changed.
Okay. Now, for you, how did the dynamics change?
I was no longer sacred to my husband anymore. He would give me details of how other women felt, things that he liked, and became very into things that we allowed into our marriage, and became very obsessed and taken with what we had allowed in together. So I'd shared with him that certain things bothered me that he would tell me in detail, and he would brush that off. He kind of gave me a long leash of and he had one as well. But between him and I, we always were good to one another. We took care of each other, still loved each other very much. But our marriage did change when we allowed.
Did you think how he acted cheapened how you felt?
How Robert acted cheapened?
Yeah, did it make you feel less, that you felt less in his eyes?
Sometimes. But Robert always gave me a lot of compliments and didn't make me feel less necessarily.
So your husband was seeing other women.
Yes, we had opened our marriage, and he had sexual relationships with other women.
And that only caused you to feel a little less, not a lot. It didn't affect you that much in your marriage.
Looking back, it affected me a lot. But in the moment, it became who we were. It only progressed. We were partying, drinking, living the life, and it just ended up becoming who we were, we were just living it.
So let me just set out this time frame. Based on your testimony, your husband's out having sex with other women, you're drinking a lot of booze, and you felt like, this is great, I'm loving this.
It wasn't like that.
Okay. So it wasn't a very fun time, was it?
Yes, it was a very fun time.
What about it made it fun for you?
We had a good life. We were on the lake all the time. We had a boat. There was always music. There was always drinking. And we'd get wild. It was fun.
It's kind of been intimated in this case that Miss Bernatine was having an affair with your husband. Was she?
Yes.
Okay. So let's add into the picture then that your best friend at the time was having an affair with your husband. And this is still in your mind a fun time.
In the end, with her, it wasn't a fun time anymore. But yes, there were fun times for sure.
Just trying to understand what's going through your mind. You were okay then with your husband having an affair with your best friend?
Yes.
You never complained about that at all?
I would. minimally to him.
Were you aware of other women that your husband was having an affair with?
He had sexual relationships, sexual sex with another woman.
And is this in 2013, around the same time as Kelly, or is this before?
It's before.
Okay. So Kelly's the only one he's having this affair with.
As far as I know.
That's a good spot.
That'll work.
All right, that'll do it for today. We'll see everybody back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Remember not to form or express any opinion or discuss the case. See y'all back at 9.